So we just briefly talked or introduced this concept of utility, or the satisfaction or happiness you get from consuming goods or services. In particular, we can think of total utility as the total happiness or satisfaction from all of an individual's consumption. So it's the total amount of happiness or satisfaction that some person or consumer gets from consuming all the goods and services they consume. So this is what we're thinking about. People are making decisions to maximize their total happiness or total satisfaction. But as economists, we know we have to think on the margin. We're going to make decisions on the margin. So let's think about marginal utility here. And so what marginal utility is, it's the happiness or satisfaction we get, consumers or people get, from consuming one more of these goods or one more of this service. So we're going to say it's the additional satisfaction or happiness from consuming one more unit of the good or service. For most rational consumption, this will be positive. Oops, I should say will be positive. Greater than 0. And so I'm often going to say that we're going to call this MU for marginal utility. So marginal utility is usually greater than 0. Maybe there's some times where it's less than 0, but probably not rational that we made that decision. All right, so total utility is the total happiness that we get from all of our consumption of goods and services. This is what we're trying to maximize. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction or happiness we get from consuming one more of these goods or one more of this service. And so when we think about our maximization problem, the marginal utility is going to be key to determining how we maximize this total utility. In this marginal utility, we're going to kind of assume it has a certain property, or at least most of the time it has this certain property, and that's that it's diminishing, that there's diminishing marginal utility. So let's quickly erase this board, and then we'll talk about diminishing marginal utility. So let's talk about diminishing marginal utility. So MU for marginal utility. So if we consume something and our total utility goes up, that means our marginal utility is positive. If we consume an additional good, and our total utility increases, then margin utility is greater than 0. But we're usually going to make the assumption that this margin utility is diminishing. That MU is diminishing. So what does that mean? Let's just look at an example. I think that will really clear what diminishing margin utility means. So let's think about the number of tacos someone buys. We can think of their total utility and think about their marginal utility over here. So let's say this first taco that someone chooses to consume, it's going to give them 20 total utility, which means their marginal utility from consuming the first one is 20, right? Because for the first taco that we have, the marginal utility equals the total utility. Now let's say they have a second taco, and now their marginal utility is 14, and their total utility therefore is 34. So notice that their total utility is going up, and their margin utility is positive, but it's going down. This is diminishing margin utility. The margin utility is falling the more tacos we're eating. And let's say for the third one, this person only gets 6 utils of happiness or satisfaction from eating the third taco. So a lot less than the first one and significantly less than the second one as well. Well, now their total utility is 40. So again, the total utility is still going up, which means the margin utility is positive, but the margin utility is falling. So it's diminishing. The more tacos we have, the less satisfaction we get from eating one additional taco. So that's the idea behind diminishing margin utility. So notice that diminishing margin utility doesn't mean that the margin utility is negative. It just means the margin utility is falling as we have more and more of the same good.